how does your product improve security as well as scalability in cross-chain transactions?
Yeah, so when it comes to, security, I think it's the point that I touched upon briefly earlier. So when you have these bridges with the like lock-in and mint mechanism, you have these big TVL honeypots. TVL stands for like total value locked. It's those big honeypots of massive amounts of money that are just locked there in that bridge contract, which are there for hackers to see, and they can see, oh, there's 100 million in that bridge, there's 200 million in that bridge. I'll try and hack this, right? Like it's just a honeypot, it's attractive. What happens with an intent-based bridge, because you're not actually bridging, but you're swapping, the amount of risk that you take is always limited to the size of the transaction. So if we decide, let's say you're on chain A and you have 1 Bitcoin there, I'm on chain B, I have 1 Bitcoin there, and you want to actually have Bitcoin on chain B instead of chain A, and I'm saying, okay, that's fine for me. I'll send you my Bitcoin and I'll take yours on chain on the other side. The size of our transaction is limited to 1 Bitcoin, and it's just for the amount of the swap, right? Once the transaction is over, the risk is gone because we're both happy and we're both satisfied with the outcome of the transaction, and there's nothing locked anywhere. So that's how it massively improves like security, because there's just so much less risk, less assets that are there. In terms of scalability, typically how bridges work as well as like there's an amount of liquidity that is present on specific chains, and typically it routes through the different like decentralized exchanges where there is sufficient liquidity for that token, which means there have to be tokens in that like liquidity pool to make the swap happen. Now with intent-based mechanism, you're not only limited to the amount of liquidity that is on those liquidity pools that is on these chains. You actually, as a solver, I don't think I've used the term solver so far, but solvers are the professional market makers that I'm talking about, these professional players that can fulfill your trade. They actually have access to all the liquidity that they can have access to, not only on that particular chain. What I mean by this is that, let's say, we're again same scenario here. Like you're on chain A with your Bitcoin and you want to go to chain B with your Bitcoin. Let's say I don't have Bitcoin on chain B. I can still send you Bitcoin on chain B if I can source it elsewhere very quickly, right? So if I have access to, say, 100 centralized exchanges where there is Bitcoin that is connected to chain B, I can very quickly source that and send it to you. Or even I can borrow it from someone who has it on chain B. I can send it to you and then repay my loan from the sourcing that I do on these centralized exchanges, for example, right? Mm-hmm. As long as I charge you a fee for that, it will be still profitable for me. So it actually gives you access to a full liquidity network. Like the full liquidity network is now available to fulfill that trade, rather than just a specific amount of liquidity which is locked onto that chain or that pool. So that's why it's a lot more scalable and secure than a traditional bridge.